Helix Resources in the process of closing a capital raising for $13 million. That gives us a large stake to go all in on finding more high-grade copper in the COBAR area in central New South Wales. And that's what I'll be talking about this afternoon. $11 million of that $13 million raise is a placement that went predominantly to institutions. And the aspects that captured the imagination and the interest of those instos was our strategic land position, over 2,000 square kilometres, in that greater COBAR Basin area. They recognised that we've got two existing copper resources, the CZ deposit and the Cambalago deposit, and they saw the potential for us to grow those resource areas, as well as the numerous prospects that we have on several mineralised trends that we've defined. They also understand the infrastructure-rich nature of the neighbourhood in which we're operating and the very significant mining operations that are there and that have operated for a long period of time. Being so well capitalised takes us out of that junior operating mode space. Typically, the company had been undercapitalised and did small parcels of piecemeal work. We can now bring together a large-scale, coherent program. And what a neighbourhood it is. It's really got on the map recently with the US $1.15 billion acquisition of Glencore's CSA mine by a special purpose vehicle called Metals Acquisition Corporation. Peel Mining has also recently raised $24 million as they look to make a transition or pivot onto a development pathway. If you look at our two tenement blocks there to the west and to the eastern block there, our neighbours to the north, Aeris Resources, I think for about 25 years now they've been churning out 20 to 25,000 tonnes of copper in concentrates every year. Over on the western side, that CSA operation has been churning out 40 to 50,000 tonnes of copper in a very sweet concentrate for the last 25 or 30 years, and I understand there's still 10 or 15 years ahead of it. This area has large-scale, high-grade copper deposits. Down to the south, we have Aurelia operating both a base metals and a gold project, and then we have emerging producers like Peel with their Mallee Bull discoveries there, and perhaps Helix Resources will become one of those emerging producers. That's certainly our objective. So let's have a look at the tenements. We have these two tenement groups, the east and the west, and along those tenements we've located three mineralised trends. The ROCHFORD trend in the middle there, which trends to the northwest, the COLLERINA trend on the eastern side, north-south, and the earlier stage Mariula trend. We implemented a new exploration strategy in early 2021, and one of the early components of that was to fly a regional VTEM survey. This is an electromagnetic survey, and electromagnetics is one of the key exploration or discovery tools in the area. And it's remarkable to think that only a very small portion of Helix's tenure had any EM coverage up until March of last year. So it gives us a really good base set of data with which to rank and prioritise a whole range of prospects that we have. 2021 set the stage, proved the concept. 2022, with a full treasury position, enables us to bring it home, really pick up the pace, and that's what we're looking to do. Let's have a look at the ROCHFORD trend first. This is a 30-kilometre belt. It hosts our Cambalago mineral deposit, and it also has a number of prospects along it. What are we looking for here? We're looking for COBAR-style mineralisation. We believe the rocks and the geochemical signatures are similar to what we see around the COBAR area, and an example of those deposits is the CSA mine. These are deposits that have very small footprints, but very great vertical extents. They quite often occur in parallel lodes, and they have discrete structural controls on the mineralisation. And if you get onto one of these things of a CSA scale, they're elephants. These are very rewarding targets for investors. So along the ROCHFORD trend, we have a series of opportunities. We have the Cambalago resource, 1.2 million tonnes, 1.5 million tonnes at 1.2% copper. And recently, in fact this morning, we announced further high-grade intercepts of that, 5.3 metres at 3.4% copper, which occurs 60 metres beneath 14 metres at 4.2% copper that we intersected previously. Both of these intercepts are beneath the existing resource. We've also recently outlined new lodes identified for the first time occurring to the west, and we have a range of prospects to follow up on there as well. I think you'll see as we step through the couple of the opportunities at Rochford how we really are building up that COBAR mineralisation style model. That's what 11% copper looks like. That brassy yellow colour on the drill core, that is chalcopyrite. That portion of the intercept that we announced this morning grades 11% copper within the 5.3 metres at 3.4% copper. And that's pretty exciting stuff when you drill that. So this is a long section through the Cambalago deposit. This long section is quite different to one I've shown previously because our geologists have done some terrific work taking lots of measurements and actually reinterpreting the geology. What we have here is we have that high-grade intercept, the 14 metres at 4% that we've reported previously, and then down beneath it, here we've intercepted 5.3 metres at 3.34. Previously, the interpretation was that the mineralisation plunged to the north, so it was pretty disappointing in the middle of last year when we hit hole 5 and only got a relatively low tenor intercept, and investors kind of left the story. But with the new interpretation based on good data, we believe that the mineralisation actually plunges to the south, which means that hole 5 was a near miss, and it really opens up the down plunge potential for a high-grade copper sulfide shoot, very consistent with the COBAR style model. If we look at it and plan, a couple of features here. This is the main Cambalago lode through here, which I was just showing the long section through, and we've identified these parallel lode systems to the west. That's only a couple of hundred metres this way and then another couple of hundred metres. So we're starting to build up the story that there are parallel lodes as well. We've reported some drill intercepts into them recently. We got some interesting results, 5 metres at 1% copper, things like that. Very early days, really just having a look at the top of the system. Right now we have a drill rig there. We're plumbing the depths. We're going to map this out. Let's take a step back regionally along that Rochford structure. This shaded area is the joint venture tenement where we have a 70-30 joint venture with Eris. We're 70, they're 30, we co-fund and we collaborate technically. This is the greater Cambalago project area in here, which I was just referring to. But you can see to the north and to the south we have other targets. And two in particular, the Caballero and the Bijou targets, were followed, interesting rocks, they were followed up with geochem sampling, got strong surface soil anomalies, followed up with scout RC drilling, got very anomalous results in the RC drilling, but those results weren't going to make headlines. This is going back a few years, and so they weren't really followed up. They're left there. But for us, they're very significant because the VTEM survey that we did early last year came along and lit up underneath these anomalies as well. So helping us to rank and prioritise them a lot higher than perhaps our predecessors did. And we'll be drilling here at Caballero in the coming weeks and months as well. So you can see that there's a real profile of opportunities along here for us to follow up on. In terms of our work at Cambalago, we're going to really focus on mapping out this high-grade shoot, but we're also going to map out those other prospects. It's really going to be about EM surveys, geophysics, and drilling. Let's go to the east, where we have the COLLERINA trend. This is an 80-kilometre long zone, sitting immediately to the south and a long trend from Eris's Triton operations. What we're looking for here is that Triton style of deposit. It's distinct from the COBAR style of mineralisation. It's older geologically, and the rocks are different, they're far more deformed. And you can see in the geometry of the mineralised deposits that we have there, we have these at Eris's Constellation deposit, we have the sinuous, gently plunging mineralised zone. Similar sort of geometry at their Triton ore body And lo and behold, on our CZ deposit, we have a similar sort of a geometry as well. So these are multi-deposit, large-scale copper camp type environments. That's our tenement position through that. Like I said, 80 kilometres of mineralised trends. We have our CZ deposit in this location, 2 million tonnes at 2% copper and a little bit of gold. And then we have a whole range of geochem, copper anomalies, and historic workings running right through that belt, but it's never had systematic ongoing exploration. $13 million in the bank enables you to take chances, take risks, and have a look at some of these earlier stage targets. And the pink shaded area you see there is where we're kicking off some to get a large regional scale geochem data sets. And as an aside, we also have a nickel cobalt resource that we picked up through a tenement rationalisation in here, which we're looking to do something with in terms of independent funding. This is a plan view of that CZ deposit, and what happens here is that the mineralisation trends down plunge from left to right down here to the southeast. And you can see with these kind of assays, this is a genuine high-grade copper sulfide zone extending over about 1,200 metres in this direction. We've also recently in our drilling defined shallow, high-grade oxide copper mineralisation from about 12 metres vertical. So there's a lot for us to get on with here. Our initial priority is to focus on really understanding the geological model here in the same fashion that we think we're getting on top of the geological model at the Cambalago deposit. Our work here is going to be concentrated, yes, on building up the resource base around CZ, but I'm also really keen to bring a whole range of regional targets and advance them, kill some off, but really see some moving through into preliminary resource work. So we've got 13 million bucks coming in, and you can see from this pyramid, project pyramid in terms of early stage projects, advancing up this way, we've got a lot of targets to test as well. Our core objective is to define around about 200,000 tonnes of copper. I think that's the kind of threshold by where you can start to think of a standalone operation. I want to be on a development pathway. Of course, we can get lucky, we could get onto a CSA style or scale target, and that would just change everything. But we are really in the right neighbourhood to do that, make those kind of discoveries. In terms of the money we've raised, half of it's going into the ROCHFORD area and half of it is going into drilling. That's where our priorities are. In terms of the capital structure of the company, when we've completed this fundraising process, we're going to have about 2,300 million shares on issue, so there's plenty of liquidity there, a market cap approaching $30 million and a treasury of $13 million in it. The reason we did such a large raise was to get that institutional support and consolidate the share register, enable us to accelerate and really boost our exploration effort, and it gives us certainty on funding in what are really quite uncertain times. So just in closing, Helix Resources offers an investor quite unique leverage to Australian copper exploration success. It's our sole focus, copper in COBAR. We've got the team, we've got the money, we've got the targets, and there's this wonderful copper price environment keeping everything ticking along. So thank you very much.
Mike, thank you very much. We've got four more opportunities for you to grow your investment portfolio.